Hello everyone, here is Pix Team. I'm Anthony. I'm very happy to meet you here. Today we are showing you the online class. Okay, come on to the class. Okay, today is the class 9. This class we will teach about the sensor. And the sensor, this class also have 3 parts. The first is principle analysis, and the second is how to test and repair, and the number 3 is the case. And the sensor in the iPhone, you need to know what is including. The first is accelerator, and the second is gyroscope and barometric pressure sensor. And start from the iPhone 6, the iPhone company is making new function. The new app is Health. And the phone add a lot of the sensor in order to test a lot of the information of the user. For example, those sensors will getting the information of altitude, position, and how many works, how many steps you have been walking. And the most we have been used is the compass. This function of the compass is let us know that the direction. And the accelerator is in order to know our users the exercise state. And the gyroscope, this sensor, the function is in order to test our hand hold the phone, the state. For example, when we play the game of the drive the car, and this sensor will be working. And the barometric pressure sensor, this main function of the air pressure sensor is to test the air pressure of your location and finally calculate the altitude of your location through the calculation. Okay, now we first talking about the compass. What is his theory and principle? And in the before, we have been talking about the compass. The main function is let me know that the direction. And the working condition of the compass also have two. One is power and the second is signal. And as you can see here have two power. One is PP 3.0 voltage, one is PP 1.8 voltage. This all power is from the main power IC, the PMU. And the signal is from the CPU, the SPI control bus. And you can see the A1 this pin is the compass to CPU, the interrupt signal. And as you can see in this theory photo, you can see that the SPI control bus sent by the CPU also control the other sensors. Okay, now we talking about the accelerator and gyroscope. And in some iPhone, these two sensors have been integrated in one sensor. And in some iPhone, maybe you cannot find out the accelerator, but you don't need to worry about it because some iPhone have been let the accelerator integrate in the gyroscope IC. So the gyroscope IC have two functions because the accelerator have been integrated in this IC. And the main function of the accelerator we have been talking about, the main function is to detect the movement status of the mobile phone so that we can know that how many steps we have been walking in one day. And the gyroscope, the function is to detect the spatial status of the handheld mobile phone. And the working condition of these two functions also have two. One is power and second is signal. And as you can see, the power only one is PP 1.8 voltage. This power is from the main power IC, the PMU. And now we see the U3010, the gyroscope sensor. And we see the pin 5. This pin, the line is from the CPU, the CS signal. This CS is mean that chip select signal. And we see the pin 6 and pin 7. These two signal line all is the interrupt signal. One is for the accelerator and gyroscope. And we have been talking about like this. Some mobile phone, the accelerator is integrated into the gyroscope sensor IC. And now we see the accelerator, the U3013. The accelerator is same. One is the CS signal, the chip select signal, and have two interrupt signal. Okay, now we're talking about the air pressure sensor. And we have been talking about the barometric pressure sensor. The function is to detect the altitude of the phone. And the same is the working condition have two. One is power and the second is signal. And the power, only one power is the PP 1.8 power. This power is from the PMU, the main power IC. And the second is the signal communicate with the CPU. The CPU uses the SPI control bus to control this sensor. Okay, now we're talking about how to test and repair the sensor problem. And in our repair, the sensor problem have two kinds. One is all the sensor is failed, and the second is only single sensor have some problem. And these two kinds of the problem, the repair idea is different. First, we're talking about all the sensor is failed. The first thing, we need to put your phone into the DFU mode and then use the items to upgrade the system to the new versions. And when you upgrade the system, still have some problem, you need to take out the motherboard and check the motherboard has some abrasive damage or not, such as the water damage or the chip is cracked. And after that, we need to test the power supply of the 1.8 voltage and 3.0 voltage is normally or not. If these two voltage is abnormal, maybe these two power line have some problem. Or maybe the PMU, this IC have some problem. So we need to one step by one step to test it and repair it. And if the voltage is normally, we need to do the next step. We need to change the new NAND and revise the underlying data of the NAND because maybe the information of the NAND have some problem case this sensor or is failed. And after this, we also need to check the SPI lines of the communication with the CPU. And this is the solution of all the sensor fail, how to repair it. And after that, we need to talking about single sensor has some problem, how should we do? The first thing, we also need to change the new sensor IC. After this IC have been removed, we need to test the pin under the pan to test the line, the resistance is normally or not. And if some point is missing or some point the resistance is abnormal, we just focus on that pin, that line is okay. Okay, this is the solution and theory about the sensor. Now showing you some case. This case is the iPhone X. The wake up function cannot be used after a heavy drop. And before the class, we have been know that the wake up this function is working by the gyroscope of the CPU control. And we have been talking about how to repair the case only one sensor have some problem. You need to remove that IC first. So in this case, we also do the same. We need to remove this gyroscope IC first and test the point under the pan. And after that, we have been found out the pin 5, pin 6, pin 7 have been disconnected. And according to the certificate, we can see that the pin 5, which is the CPU to accelerator gyros SPI chip slash signal. And the pin 6 is the data ready signal from the accelerator GYRO to the CPU. And the pin 7, this line is the interrupt signal from the accelerator GYRO to the CPU. So now we found out where is the problem, and then we handle the pan on the motherboard and make a jumper in this 3 pin and then install back the IC. After that, we install and test the phone. This problem is finished. Okay, this is the sensor class. The sensor problem is very easy to repair. You just one step by one step follow our solution is okay. Okay, because the sensor is so easy, and now we showing you one more class. This is the lesson 10, and we were talking about the connection. The connection is mean that the phone connect to the computer will show you the items or show you anything, information or not. Okay, now we're talking about the principle of the connection. Okay, the theory of the connecting iPhone to computer also have 3 parts. One is the principle, and the second is how to test and repair, and the number 3 is the case showing you to guys. And before we talking about the computer iPhone connection, we need to know that the process of the connecting iPhone to computer. The first is the latest version of the items is installed on the computer. And the second, use the Apple original USB cable to connect to your phone to the computer. And then the J4600, the 29 disc pin, check if the USB cable is plugged in or not. And the number 4 is the CPU detect the type of the USB device inserted through the USB control IC. And the number 5 is the CPU promote data exchange through the USB cable. And the number 6 is when the USB control IC recognizes that the inserted device is a charger. Start the charging IC to start charging the device. In the iPhone is the U4500 USB control IC to control the connection and charging these two parts. When we connect the phone to the computer, we need to connect the phone with the Lightning cable. And in this time, the Lightning cable is connected to the dock FPC. And the dock FPC is connected to the J4600, the Type-B connector. And when the phone plug in the Lightning cable, the phone will detect this cable is connected or not. It have been plugged in or not. This theory is same like we have been talking about the earphone plug-in. The theory is same. And now we see the J4600, the Type-B connector, the 29 disc pin. The connector 29 disc pin is the detect signal 9. And in this connector, the 29 disc pin, when the phone is standby, this pin have the standby 1.8 voltage. But when you connect to the charging cable, the Lightning cable, this 9, the voltage is connect to GND. And this 9, the voltage is become to 0 voltage. And when the USB control IC detect this 9 have the 1.8 voltage, it means that the phone confirm that you have not connect the charging cable. And when the USB control IC detect this 9 have not the 1.8 voltage, it means that the phone confirm that you have been plugged in the charging cable. And when we're talking about this, we showing you guys a small detail. The iPhone have two ways to power on. The first is when we press the power on key, the phone will turn on. And the second is when we plug in the charging cable, the phone also will turn on. So actually, plug in the charging cable, the phone turn on. The theory is in this 29 disc pin. When the phone is turned off, and then you plug in the charging cable, and the CPU detect this 29 disc line, the 1.8 voltage exchange into the 0 voltage, and the phone have been know that you have been plugged in the charging cable, so the phone can turn on. And maybe you will know that in the mobile market have one machine is iPower. It just use the theory in this pin. So if you understand a lot of the theory, you not only can repair well the phone, you also can make the machine. And now we see the 22 and 13.6, these two pin the 9. As you can see that this 9, the name is ACC1 and ACC2. And the ACC in this is mean that accessories. And as we know that the iPhone charging cable, he have two sides and all can charging. This 29 is to detect the two sides of the charging cable. And maybe in our repair you will meet the phone, the charging cable only can one side charging and another side cannot be charging. Generally, the problem is in this 29, one of the 9 is have problem, so the phone can only one side be charging, another side cannot charging. And now we see the 26, 28, and 13.2 and 13.4, this 4 pin of the connector. This 4.9 all is the data exchange 9. This 4.9 is connected to the USB control IC. And in this photo, you will know that the USB control IC, the U4500 USB control IC is so important in this charging and connect this part. If this USB control IC have some problem, it will also case the USB cable cannot be identified. So when we connect to the charging cable, it also cannot be charging. So when we meet the phone cannot be charging, the first thing we need to do is confirm that the phone is the USB cable cannot be identified or just the phone cannot be charging. And the USB control IC want to working normally, he also have two working conditions. One is power and the second is signal. And you see this certificate, you see the photo, you see the red line. You can see that there have the 4 red line, right? The F3, F4 and D5 line, this is the power line. And one is the 1.8 voltage, and second is the 3.0 voltage, and the number 3 is the 3.3 voltage. And this 39 all is the power all is from the main power IC, the U2000 PMU. And you can see that the 5.0 voltage, this power is from the USB. And that 39 power from the PMU is so easy. So we meaning talking about the F6 this pin of the U4500 USB control IC, the red line in the right side of the IC. This is the 5.0 voltage from USB. This 5.0 voltage, only when we plug in the charging cable, this line will have this 5.0 voltage. When we plug in the charging cable, and the power will send to the connector 14.3 and 14.4, these two pins first. And as you can see the white lines in this position, you will see that one line is going to the Q4500, the electric switch, and go to the USB control IC. And one line is go to the U2300, the charging IC. Okay, now we see the signal part. Now we first see the C3 and C4, these two pins. In the upper of the certificate, the U4500, you can see that. The C3 and C4, these two lines is go to the U3500, the audio IC. These two lines will working when we plug in the lightning earphone cable. And continue to go down, we see the A1 and B1, these two pins. This two lines is connected to the baseband CPU. This two signal is the detect signal. And if these two lines have some problem, maybe will case the phone have no baseband. Now we continue to go down, we see the C2, this line. This line is the ID detect signal line, because have a lot of the specification of the charging cable, have 1A charging cable and 2A charging cable. And in this signal line, you will see that have a resistor. This resistor, if it missing, the phone cannot be charging. And if you make a jumper in this resistor, the phone only support the 1A charging. Even you plug in a 2A charging cable, he also only give the 1A charging. This is not operates in the iPhone. He is operates in iPad. Because you buy an iPad, the charging he give you is the 2A charger. But you buy the iPhone, the charger just 1A. So if this line is have some problem in iPad, you feel that the iPad charging is very slowly. Okay, now we see the B6, this pin. This pin is the USB control IC to the PMU, the host reset signal. And continue to go down, we see the C6, this pin. This pin is the USB control IC to the CPU, the interrupt signal. And the E4, this pin is the PMU to the USB control IC, the active ready signal. This signal is also sent to the CPU. What is the active ready signal? It means that the PMU is starting to work. It sends the signal to a lot of the IC. He say that, now I'm ready. If you need the power, you let me know and I give you the power. And continue to go down, we see the D3 and D4, these two lines. This two lines is CPU to the USB control IC, the I2C1 control bus. And in other words, it means that if the USB control IC it have some problem, will case these two I2C bus have some problem. And maybe will case the phone cannot turn on and restart with the Apple logo. Because as we know that the I2C control bus is controlled by the CPU. If the CPU, the I2C control bus have some problem, will case the CPU not turn on or restart again and again. And continue to go down, we see the A3 and B3, this line. This two line is the USB data line. And go down, we see the E2, E1, F2, F1, this 4 line. All is the CPU, the UART control bus. And continue to go down, we see the A5 and B5, these two lines. All is the CPU to the USB control IC, the SWD control bus. And we see the E6. This line is the USB control IC, the reference circuit. And as you can see here have a capacitor. If this capacitor have some problem or missing, will case the phone have kinds of the problem. Okay, this is the theory about it. Okay, now we share you guys the solution of the connection have some problem, how to test and repair. The first is we need to change a computer to test. And the second is we need to change the USB cable have a test because maybe it's the ACC have problem case cannot connect. And the number 3, we need to change the type of connector cable have a test. Type of connector cable is the .FPC. And then the number 4 is we need to test the resistance of the type of connector cable and check whether have a broken line or short circuit. And number 6 is check if the USB control IC, the power line normally or not. And all the power line is normally, we need to do the next step. We need to change the new USB control IC. But when we're removing the USB control IC, we also need to test the resistance of the pan of this USB control IC. Check whether the resistance is normally or not. And all is normally, and then we need to test the 1.8 voltage of the I2C circuit is normally or not. If this all have been repaired, still have problem, you don't need to continue to repair it because this is caused by the CPU problem. The CPU inside have some problem. Okay, now showing you some case to let you guys understand more. This is the iPhone 8, no battery data and charge, so the 0% during charging. And what is the no battery data? It means that when we see the battery health through the computer, for example, the VU tools, this software, and the battery health data is unknown. This is mean that no battery data. And this problem mostly caused by a failure of the battery detect circuit. And when we meet those cases, the first we need to take out the motherboard and test the resistance of the J3200 battery connector and check the battery connector, the lines have been failed or not. And during our checking, we have been found out the battery connector, the pin 2 and pin 5, these 2 pins, the resistance is OL, which normally should be 712. It means that this line is broken line, open line. So we see the certificate, we can see the battery connector, the pin 3 and pin 2, these 2 lines. And this 2 line all is the I2C bus, which is the I2C control bus issued by the CPU to detect the battery data. The signal is sent by the CPU plus the possession resistor R3202 and R3201, and the protection tube Q3200 and Q3201. It links to the J3200 battery connector. After the testing, we can find that the Q3200 and the Q301, the protection IC was damaged and caused the disconnection in this line. Those protection IC is a protection IC on the I2C 0 control bus. So we do not shock jumper it when it lose or damage, because if you meet this jumper, maybe sometimes it's okay, but the customer will come back very soon. But if you want to quickly finish this problem, you also can make shock jumper. And we also show you the shock jumper way. You just need to make a shock jumper, connect the pin 2 and pin 3 is okay. But the best to repair this problem is need to change a new protection IC is of the same model. After we replace a new protection tube and test the connector again, the resistance come back to normally. So we install and test the phone. The problem have been finished. Okay, showing the last case. This is iPhone X. The data cable can be charged on one side, but another side cannot be charging. This case we have been talking in the theory class. And if you have been make a note, you can very quickly to thinking it out. The same step when we do this repair, the first we need to test the resistance of the USB detection circuit of the J6400 the type of connector to see have any abnormal line or not. When the J6400 the 16 pin have been detected, this line show me is OL, which normally should be 376. So in case this line is disconnection. And according to the certificate, we can see that this 60 pin, the circuit is which is a USB low and bad detect circuit. 16 is ACC1. This circuit is sending by the U6300 USB control IC to the J6400 connector through the protection inductor FL6411. So we need to test the inductor. After we test the inductor FL6411 is damaged, because this inductor is protection inductor, so if it damaged, we can make a shock jumper in the 2 pin of it. After we make a jumper in the 2 pin of the inductor, and then we test the resistance again. The millimeter is show me the normal resistance. It means that this circuit is back to normal. So we install and test the phone. This problem is finished. Okay, showing you the next case. This is the iPhone X. We start with the Apple logo and cannot connect to the computer. When we meet the phone, we start with the Apple logo. We generally try to connect it to the computer and flash it. But now the phone cannot connect to the computer, so we repair the connection circuit first. So we take out the motherboard and levering the motherboard and test the upper motherboard first. We tinker and power on the upper motherboard. It is found that we start with Apple logo and cannot connect to the computer. It is determined that the U6300 the USB control IC is have some problem. So we change a new USB control IC and power supply to take the startup test. This problem is finished. Okay, this is the iPhone XS Max. No charging and no connection. When we meet this case, first we also need to change the charger, change the USB cable to have a test, right? If not the charger, not the charging cable has some problem, we also need to change a new housing, have a test. If still have some problem, this problem is in the motherboard. So we check whether the power supply of the U6300 USB control IC is normally or not. During the measurement, it was found that when the mobile phone connect to the charging, the 5 voltage power supply of the U6300 has no voltage. And according to the certificate, we can find out the G6 this pin, the circuit of the U6300 USB control IC is PPVAR USB RVP, which is a 5 voltage power supply from USB. This power comes from the charging and plus the USB control IC after passing through the U3300 charging IC. It's determined that the charging IC is damaged, so we change a new charging IC and test again. This problem is finished. Okay, this is the next case. This is the iPhone XS Max. No battery data, and the battery level of the mobile phone is always displayed as 1%. When connect to the computer to see the battery data through the video tools, the battery data, the healthy cannot see. And during this class, we will know that the reason generally have two. One is the battery have some problem, and the second is the motherboard battery detection circuit have some problem. So the first, we need to change a battery to have a try. The problem still, so we test the J3200 battery connector. We find that the resistance of the pin 2 is 0, which is normally should be 637. It means that this line is short circuit. And according to the certificate, we can see the pin 2, which is the I2C0 control bus issued by CPU. And it sent it to the pin 2 of the J3200 by the CPU through the protection resistor R3202 and the electric switch Q3201. So first, after that, we need to test the resistor first. But after we test the resistor, the resistance is normally. So it's determined that the problem is in the electric switch Q3201. Because this IC is in the I2C bus, so we not make a shock jumper. We change a new electric switcher of the same model and then test it again. The resistance is come back to normal. So we check the battery information through the VU tools and see it. The battery life is 84%. So it means that this problem is finished.
结尾，3、2、1，开始。
Hello everyone, this is all the information in this video class. I suggest you guys see this video one more time and make more notes, and when you study hard you will get more. Okay, we can come back to our Facebook the group, and if you in this class have some question you can ask and we will give you the answer. Also you have some problem when you meeting in the repair, you also ask. We also can give you the answer for free. Okay, thank you so much.